Hello, and welcome to Vidhammer, the battle report resource for Warhammer Fantasy. In this video, we'll be covering a second round matchup at the Anthem Games tournament in January of 2012. This is a 2,500 point engagement between the Lizardmen and the Ogre Kingdom's armies using the 8th edition rules. The scenario being played is the Blood and Glory scenario from the Warhammer rulebook, but the victory conditions are based on point values, with the end of the game occurring when one army reaches the breakpoint or after 6 turns. Bear in mind that I was playing on a different table at the time and have done my best to decipher the events that took place. In spell generation, the Lizardmen have a Slan Priest that gets Earth Blood, Flesh to Stone, Regrowth, Throne of Vines, Shield of Thorns, and the Dwellers Below, as well as a Skink Priest who ends up with Comet of Cassandora and Ice Shard Blizzard. The Ogres have a Firebelly who gets Fulminating Flame Cage and the Flaming Sword of Ruin, and a level 2 Butcher that ends up with Spine Marrow and the Maw. The Ogres win the placement roll and elect to set up first on the left side of the screen. Each unit must be rolled for and placed in either the left, right, or center of their deployment area. The first unit for the Ogres consists of 10 Gnoblar Trappers that are deployed in the center area, followed by 10 more in the left area. One Saber-Tusk goes down next to the Gnoblars in the center, while another goes next to the Gnoblars on the left. Next, the Ogres place 6 Lead Belchers, 6 Ogres, and an Iron Blaster in the center. A unit of 7 Iron Guts with a Bruiser BSB go behind the leftmost Gnoblars, and 7 more Ogres with their general sit between the cannon and the Iron Guts. Finally, a Thunder Tusk goes on the rightmost flank as the Firebelly and Butcher stand by themselves in the center. The Lizardmen start with a unit of 20 Skinks toward the left of their center. 2 Salamanders go on the right flank, while 2 more go on the left. A unit of 30 Saurus Warriors goes next to the rightmost Salamanders, and 30 more come down next to the Skinks. A unit of Temple Guard with a Slan Priest goes between the Saurus Warrior units, and a Skink Priest on an Ancient Stegodon comes down on the left flank. After placement, the Lizardmen put a unit of Skink Skirmishers off the bottom of the screen. The Lizardmen get to roll for a 6 to steal the first turn and succeed. For their movement, they quickly leave the forest to avoid damage from the wild wood. The left Salamander unit doesn't make it out of the wood, but avoids taking damage. For Winds of Magic, the Lizardmen get 12 power dice against 6 dispel dice. The Stegodon imparts a 5+ ward save on the lower Saurus Warriors. They cast Comet of Cassandora, which has a chance to cause wounds or get stronger each friendly magic phase, and the target spot is in front of the lower Saber-Tusk. It gets Irresistible Force, with a backlash putting a wound on the Slan and removing 5 dice from the power pool. The Slan Priest gets an additional power die for each spell that it casts. First, he casts Earth Blood, giving the Temple Guard unit a 5+ regeneration save, and the Life Bloom effect heals the wound on the Slan Priest. Next, Flesh to Stone gives the Stegodon +2 toughness, and finally, Throne of Vines is cast on the Temple Guard unit. In the shooting phase, the upper Salamanders fall short with their first shot and eat a Skink with the second. The off-screen Skink Skirmishers hit the Lead Belchers for a single wound. For the Ogre's turn, the upper Saber-Tusk darts forward while the rest of the line moves forward and angles right around the center terrain. For the magic phase, the Ogres get 7 power dice against 6 dispel dice. The Slan targets the Firebelly with Becalming Cogitation, which eliminates any power dice that roll a 6 for that caster. The Ogres attempt Fulminating Flame Cage, but it gets dispelled. A second spell is attempted, but fails. As a late arrival, the Comet of Cassandora gains +1 strength. In the shooting phase, the Thunder Tusk Harpoon misses the lower Salamanders, the Iron Blaster Cannon misfires and can't fire for 2 rounds, and the Stone Thrower shoots for the Stegodon but drifts off the center and doesn't cause any wounds. The The lead belchers hit the skinks for 5 wounds who passed their panic check. On the second turn, the upper and lower salamanders move up for flanking shots, the skinks move up for a close shot on the thunder tusk, and the remaining battle line closes ground. In the magic phase, the comet crashes, dealing 8 wounds to the lead belchers and 5 to the adjacent ogre bulls. The lead belchers fail their panic check and run from the explosion. For Winds of Magic, the Lizardmen get 7 power dice against 5 dispel dice. The Slann casts Earth Blood on the Temple Guard unit and attempts Flesh to Stone, but it gets dispelled with a scroll. Next, they attempt Shield of Thorns and Ice Shard Blizzard, but both are dispelled with dice. The shooting phase starts with the skinks hitting the Thunder Tusk for a single wound. The upper salamanders hit for 1 wound on the upper ogre bulls and 1 on the iron guts. The lower salamanders hit the iron belchers for a single wound and eat 2 skinks. For the ogres, the Thunder Tusk charges the skinks that run through the stegodon, which fails its panic check and runs 10 inches. The Thunder Tusk tests its leadership and redirects into the Saurus warriors. The BSB charges out of the Iron Guts unit at the Saurus warriors, with the upper ogre bulls and Saber Tusk charging in as well. The lower Saber Tusk joins in the fun and charges the lower salamanders. The lead belchers rally after some normal movement. In the magic phase, the ogres get 9 power dice against 6 dispel dice. The Firebelly attempts Fulminating Flame Cage, but the spell fails. They use their remaining dice to attempt Spine Marrow, but it gets dispelled. Shooting sees 2 wounds that I can't decipher. In close combat, the Thunder Tusk hits the Saurus warriors for 2 wounds, who hit back for 8, with the Thunder Tusk saving 3 and dying to the rest. The Saurus warriors reform to face the ogre bulls. In the lower combat, the Saber Tusk hits the Salamander unit and kills 2 skink handlers before succumbing to death. The adjacent ogres have no problem watching the ordeal. In the upper combat, the Saurus warriors take 8 wounds before they take out the Saber Tusk and put 5 wounds on the ogres. The Stomps take out 2 more Saurus. The lizards lose the combat but pass their leadership check. In the third turn, the lower Saurus warriors charge the lower ogre bulls, and the Temple Guard charge the Iron Guts. The skink skirmishers finally make a screen appearance and move in behind the lead belchers as the salamanders move out of the way. The blue skinks rally and turn towards the battle. For Winds of Magic, the Lizardmen get 12 power dice against 6 dispel dice. They start by casting Ice Shard Blizzard on the upper ogre bulls unit. They then cast Earth Blood on the Temple Guard and Flesh to Stone on the lower Saurus warriors, bringing back 2 Saurus warriors from the Life Bloom effect. They cast Regrowth on the upper Saurus with irresistible force, and due to Throne of Vines, they can dodge the miscast, but they fail the roll. The Slann Priest, however, has Cupped Hands of the Old One and redirects the miscast onto the Ogre Butcher, who loses a level and the spell the Maw. The Regrowth effect brings back 5 Saurus warriors. In the shooting phase, the blue skinks hit the lead belchers for a single wound that causes a panic check that they pass, and the skink skirmishers hit for 4 more. The upper salamanders hit the Noblar trappers for 5 wounds. In the lower combat, the Firebelly hits for a single wound and the ogres hit for 2 more. The ogres take 2 wounds, killing off 1 model, then they stomp but don't cause any damage. The ogres lose the combat by 2 and pass their leadership test. In the central combat, the Temple Guard deal 5 wounds before taking 4 in return. The ogres lose the combat and fail their leadership test, but run 11 inches. The Temple Guard overrun into the combat against the Iron Guts. In the new combat, the Iron Guts deal a wound to the Saurus, but lose their BSB in retaliation. The players call the game for time, and although the ogres should have been given a final turn, both players agreed that the outcome would not have changed the results. Favorable starting placement for the Lizardmen and the loss of key ogre units had the Lizardmen end up with a decisive victory. Thanks for watching this battle report. Be sure to check back for more videos each week. Do us a favor and subscribe, and as always, feel free to send us a message if you have any tactics or matchups that you'd like to see. Till next time from the Vidhammer crew, keep fighting.